My stepdad hated me and wanted to throw me out. Little did he know that the house belonged to me legally. I'm a 19-year-old guy, and I've been living with my mom and stepdad for the past 3 years. Things have been tough lately, and I really need some advice. My mom got married to my stepdad when I was 16. At first, everything seemed okay. He was nice enough when we all hung out together, but I noticed he acted different when it was just the two of us. He'd make little comments about how I was lazy or not helping out enough around the house. I tried to ignore it and just do my best to stay out of his way. As time went on, things got worse. When my mom wasn't around, he'd criticize everything I did. He'd complain about the way I did chores, the music I listened to, even the way I dressed. Nothing was ever good enough for him. I tried talking to my mom about it a few times, but she always brushed it off. She'd say things like, "Oh, he's just trying to help you become more responsible," or, "I'm sure he doesn't mean it that way." The real problem started about 6 months ago, when my mom found out she was pregnant. My stepdad was over the moon about it. He started talking about all these plans for the baby's room and how excited he was to be a dad. I was happy for my mom, but I couldn't help feeling left out. That's when the lies started. My stepdad began telling my mom all these stories about things I supposedly did wrong. He'd say I was staying out late when I wasn't, or that I was being disrespectful to him, which wasn't true. I tried to defend myself, but it was always his word against mine. My mom seemed confused and didn't know who to believe. Last week, my stepdad announced that he wanted to remodel the house to make a nursery for the baby. He started talking about knocking down walls and rearranging rooms. I didn't think much of it at first, but then things took a turn I never expected. 2 days ago, my mom sat me down for a talk. She looked uncomfortable and wouldn't meet my eyes. She said, "Honey, you're 19 now, and you're becoming a man. We think it might be time for you to get your own place." I was shocked. I stammered something like, "What? Why? Did I do something wrong?" She rushed to reassure me. No, it's not that. It's just, well, with the baby coming, we need the space, and you're old enough now to be on your own. It'll be good for you to learn some independence." I could tell by the way she was talking that this wasn't her idea. My stepdad was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, with this smug look on his face. That's when I knew he had put her up to this. I tried to argue, to explain that I wasn't ready to move out. I'm still in community college, and I work part-time at a local grocery store. There's no way I can afford my own place right now. But my mom just kept repeating that it would be good for me, and that I needed to grow up. The worst part came when my stepdad chimed in. He said, "You've got 2 days to find a place. We need to start the remodeling soon, and we can't have you underfoot while we're trying to get ready for the baby." 2 days. How am I supposed to find a place to live in 2 days? I don't have any savings. I don't know the first thing about renting an apartment, and I don't have anyone I can stay with. All my friends still live at home too. I spent all of yesterday in a daze. I couldn't focus at work, and I kept making mistakes. My boss noticed and asked if everything was okay. I just mumbled something about family problems and tried to pull myself together. When I got home, I overheard my mom and stepdad talking in the kitchen. My stepdad was saying something about how it was about time. I moved out and how I was holding them back. My mom sounded unsure, but he kept talking over her, saying things like, "You've got to cut the cord sometime," and "He'll thank us for this later." I wanted to burst in there and tell them both off, but I knew it wouldn't do any good. My stepdad has my mom wrapped around his finger, and anything I say will just be twisted and used against me. So now I'm sitting here in my room, trying to figure out what to do. I've got less than 24 hours to come up with a plan, and I'm completely lost. I can't afford an apartment. I don't have any relatives nearby who could take me in, and I'm not even sure how to start looking for a roommate situation. I've thought about trying to reason with my mom one more time, but I'm afraid it'll just make things worse. My stepdad will probably accuse me of trying to manipulate her or something. I've also considered just refusing to leave, but I don't know what would happen then. Could they legally kick me out? Would they call the police? I don't want to cause a huge scene, but I also don't want to end up homeless. Part of me wants to just pack a bag and leave tonight, but I don't even know where I'd go. I could probably crash on a friend's couch for a night or two, but that's not a long-term solution. I feel like my whole world is falling apart. This is the only home I've ever known, and now I'm being pushed out with no warning and no support. I'm angry at my stepdad for orchestrating this, hurt that my mom is going along with it, and scared about what's going to happen to me. I keep thinking about all the things I'm going to miss. The smell of my mom's cooking, the familiar creaks of the floorboards, even the stupid arguments with my stepdad. It might not have been perfect, but it was home. And what about the baby? I was actually looking forward to being a big brother, even if it was going to be weird. Now, I might not even get to know my little sister or brother. Will my mom and stepdad just pretend I don't exist? I'm trying to stay calm and think logically, but it's hard. Every time I start to make a plan, my mind goes blank with panic. How am I supposed to juggle school, work, and finding a place to live all at once? And even if I do find somewhere, how will I pay for it? I've spent the last few hours scrolling through rental listings online, but everything is so expensive. Even the cheapest studios are way more than I can afford on my part-time salary, and most places want first and last month's rent plus a security deposit. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? I've thought about dropping out of school to work full-time, but that feels like giving up on my future. I've worked hard to keep my grades up, and I don't want to throw that away. But I don't see how I can keep going to classes if I don't have a place to live. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. This isn't fair. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not a bad kid. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I've never been in trouble with the law. I help out around the house. I get decent grades. I have a job. Why am I being punished? I keep replaying conversations with my stepdad in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. Maybe if I had stood up to him more, or if I had tried harder to bond with him, things would be different. But deep down, I know that's not true. He made up his mind about me a long time ago, and nothing I could have done would have changed that. I've thought about reaching out to my real dad, but we haven't spoken in years. He left when I was little and has never shown much interest in being part of my life. I don't even know if he'd answer if I called. As for other family, my grandparents passed away a year ago, and I don't really know my aunts and uncles. They live in different states, and we've never been close. I can't imagine any of them would be willing to take me in. The worst part is feeling so alone. I can't talk to my mom about this because she's made it clear whose side she's on. My friends try to be supportive, but none of them really understand what I'm going through. They all think it's cool that I'm moving out, like it's some big adventure. They don't get that I'm being forced out with no preparation and nowhere to go. I've thought about posting on social media to see if anyone knows of a cheap room for rent, but I'm embarrassed. I don't want everyone knowing my business or thinking I'm some kind of loser who can't take care of himself. As the hours tick by, I'm getting more and more desperate. I've started looking at ads for roommates, but most of them want someone older or with a full-time job. I've even considered sleeping in my car for a while, but I don't know if that's safe or even legal. I keep hoping that my mom will change her mind, that she'll realize this is crazy and tell my stepdad to back off. But every time I see her, she just gives me this sad, pitying look and asks if I've found a place yet. It's like she's already written me off. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, about to be pushed off. I'm not ready for this. I don't have the skills or the resources to live on my own. I'm scared of ending up on the streets or having to drop out of school. If anyone has been through something like this or has any advice, I'd really appreciate it. I'm running out of time and options, and I don't know where else to turn. Thanks for reading this far, and sorry for the long post. I guess I just needed to get it all out. Update. Hey everyone, I can't believe I'm writing this update. So much has happened in the last 24 hours, and my head is still spinning. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post with advice and support. It really helped me get through a tough night. After I posted, I was still panicking about what to do. That's when I remembered my grandma's sister, who's always been like a godmother to me. I hadn't thought of her at first because she lives pretty far away, but I was desperate and decided to give her a call. As soon as I explained the situation, she got really quiet. Then she said, "Don't you worry about a thing, sweetie. You don't need to go anywhere. I'm coming there tomorrow and we'll sort this all out." I was confused but relieved. I tried to tell her it wasn't necessary for her to come all this way, but she insisted. She told me not to say anything to my mom or stepdad and just act normal until she got here. The next day, my stepdad was getting impatient. He kept asking if I'd found a place yet and making comments about how I needed to be out by the afternoon. I just kept my head down and said I was still looking. Around 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. My stepdad answered it, and I heard my godmother's voice. She sounded angry, which was weird because she's usually super calm. She marched into the living room where my mom and I were sitting and said, "We need to talk. All of us. Now." My stepdad tried to argue, saying it was a family matter, but my godmother shut him down. "I am family," she said, "and I have something very important to tell you all." That's when she dropped the bombshell. She looked right at me and said, "Honey, this house belongs to you. Your grandmother left it to you in her will. You're the legal owner, and no one can make you leave." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mom looked shocked, and my stepdad's face turned red. He started sputtering about how that couldn't be true, but my godmother pulled out some papers from her purse. She explained that my grandma had changed her will shortly before she died. Apparently, she knew about my mom's relationship with my stepdad. It had started before they got married, and she didn't trust him. She was worried he might try to take advantage of my mom and me, so she left the house to me as a way of protecting us. My mom was in tears, asking why she hadn't been told about this. My godmother explained that it was done quickly and secretly when my grandma was on her deathbed. She said my grandma had made her promise not to say anything unless it became absolutely necessary. "And now," she said, looking at my stepdad, "it's necessary." My stepdad completely lost it. He started yelling about how it wasn't fair and how we had tricked him. He even tried to grab the papers from my godmother, but she pulled them away. That's when I found my voice. I stood up and told him to stop. I said, "This is my house, and I won't have you acting like this here." It felt weird to say, but also kind of good. For the first time, I felt like I had some power in this situation. My mom was still crying, caught between me and my stepdad. I could see she was torn and confused. I felt bad for her, but I was also angry that she had gone along with his plan to kick me out. After things calmed down a bit, we all sat down to talk. My godmother explained the legal details, and it turns out I've been the owner of the house since my 18th birthday. My stepdad kept trying to argue, but there wasn't much he could say. In the end, I made a decision. I told them that I was willing to let everyone stay in the house, including my stepdad and the baby when it comes. But I had conditions. First, my stepdad had to start treating me with respect. No more criticism, no more lies to my mom about me. Second, we all had to go to family counseling to work on our relationships. And third, any major decisions about the house had to be discussed with me first. My mom agreed right away. My stepdad wasn't happy, but he didn't have much choice. It was either accept my terms or leave. It's been a few days now, and things are still tense. My stepdad barely speaks to me, but at least he's not being openly hostile anymore. My mom seems torn between guilt over what happened and relief that we're all still together. I'm still processing everything. It's weird to suddenly be the owner of a house at 19. I've got a lot to learn about property ownership and responsibilities, but I'm also feeling more secure than I have in a long time. I know we've got a long way to go before we're anything like a happy family, but at least now I know I have a place here, and no one can take that away from me. Thank you again to everyone who offered support and advice, and a huge thank you to my grandma, wherever she is, for looking out for me even after she was gone. I promise I'll do my best to take care of this house and make her proud.